So here we are. Can't find my page. Our soul interfaces with three-dimensional reality through the spacesuit that is our physical body. Our brain is the command center, interfacing between consciousness, soul, body, and mind. Although we are all one, we all have one, and we all have an intimate experience of having one, its full potential, it's still the greatest mystery of all.
So, in today's brain show, we'll explore brainwaves, brain mapping, brainwave synchronization, the exciting neurofeedback field, and its many applications, its therapeutic potential, current research, and what the future may hold for this rapidly evolving technology.
Well, EyesWiseOpen show is co-hosted by Donnell. Hi, Donnell. And myself, Ofer. And our guest tonight, if he's appearing, is James Boy, the founder of BrainWorks Neurotherapy and Transformational Retreat. Few things before we start. We might have an issue with James because he's just told us he's in Costa Rica and he just told us that there is a huge storm going on and we kind of lost him. So we're hoping that it's not serious and he will be able to join us shortly. So a few things before we begin. Firstly, I'd like to thank Donnell and his brother Lee from Dream Maestro Online for the fantastic music opening our show tonight. I also want to give thumbs up to Kerry Cassidy, the human dynamo behind and in front ProjectCamelot.org, for bringing us all together under the umbrella of Project Camelot TV network.
All right. The box open where our live audience can interact or fire questions at us during the show. We'll dedicate the last segment of the show for questions and answers. So if you did not manage, if we did not manage to answer your questions during the show, please repost them during the question and answer segment, and we'll do our best to answer them. It also goes without saying that we would love if you would share our show on your favorite social with our Facebook, whatever platform you're using. so that the word may spread of the start of an exciting online show.
Right. And we're also going to run a witty twitty competition during this show and throughout the week following till midnight next Wednesday, the 23rd of September. And in the next show, we will announce the winner. We also have a fantastic prize for the winner. And the competition is basically, we want you to tweet out hashtag EyesWiseOpen with the wittiest tweet that you can think of. We will then look at all the tweets and select the one that we like the most. And the actual prize, I'm gonna let Donnell tell you all about that.
Okay, we're actually gonna be giving away a very powerful brainwave synchronization self-enhancement package that will help the winner to do a lot of things with their brain and their body. They will be able to increase focus dramatically, attain deep states of relaxation very quickly, and also quite quickly, they will be able to, for those of you who are into meditation, you will be able to access deep meditation, really deep states of meditation very quickly and stay there for up to 2 hours. So please jump in and tweet, and the winner will get
Okay,
it.
we need to say it again. Tweeting, we need to say it again that tweeting the hashtag EyesWiseOpen. Okay, so I guess we should start without James and hope for the best, don't we?
Yes, right. You know, James is our star for the night because he is a neurofeedback expert, and he will be explaining to us what he and his team have been doing down there in Costa Rica with neurofeedback. They're doing some very, very powerful things. I don't want to get into it and give you any spoilers. So I think maybe what we could do is just begin a discussion on brainwave synchronization and the stuff that I have been doing with it over the past, 10 years, a little bit over 10 years. And hopefully James will be able to come back in and we can take the discussion to the next level after that. So as we had discussed last night, Kerry, we decided that before we get into the more technical aspects of brainwave synchronization, we should lay the groundwork for what brainwaves, what is a brainwave, and how does it come about? How does it emerge from the brain? That was the discussion that we had. So I'll just jump into it and begin to explain a little bit about it. For those of you who are already in the know, and if you're technical enough, just bear with us so that we can bring those who have no information at all about what this whole thing is all about. So we can bring them up. Right. So our brain generates electricity whenever the neurons, the cells in our brain, communicate with each other. There is a gap across which messages are sent, either neurochemically or electrically. And the sum total of all this activity that is, or I would let's break it down some more. When these messages are sent back and forth and they generate these electrical signals, this happens to many cells, to huge networks of cells throughout the entire brain. So the sum total of these electrical activity create patterns throughout the brain that can be measured on a computer monitor with special equipment we call EEG technology or electroencephalography. And EEG can see the various frequencies that these patterns form. So these frequencies have been divided up into five basic or five general frequencies because of the speed at which they are vibrating. Um, the lowest or the slowest brain wave, which is called delta, is active when we are asleep. And this is somewhere between zero point 0.3 to up to 3 hertz. If the brain is producing 0 hertz, then there's no brain wave, and naturally we're dead. That is what is known as flatlining. But that is the delta frequency, the frequency that is active in our brain while we're asleep. Now, when the brain waves from that state begins to speed up a little bit more between 3 to 4 hertz, then, between 3 to 7 hertz, we enter the realm of the theta brainwave. And the theta brainwave is where dreaming happens, deep hypnagogic imagery happens. That means you see dream images or images that arise in the brain when your eyes are closed and you're in that dreamy REM state of sleep. So that brainwave is called the theta brainwave, 4 to 7 hertz. If these brainwaves speed up some more, we begin to become more awake, and we move from the theta level into alpha. And the alpha frequencies will range between, uh, say, 8 to 13 hertz. And here the brain is still in a fairly restful state, but we're capable to uh, access some level of focus and clarity. We can process information, but we're still in a fairly relaxed state of mind. When we're growing up as kids, we tend to spend a lot of time in this state. I think James is going to provide much more clarity on, when throughout our growth and development as individuals, these brain waves are active. However, I'll continue. Um, as the brain goes to a higher frequency or transits to a higher frequency, between 13 up to somewhere in the mid 20s, we become fully awake, and we begin to display what is known as the beta brainwave. These are, for most people, the fastest brainwave frequencies that we will consciously uh, emit while we are doing our daily activities. So these are the 4 general brainwave frequencies. There's another one, but we're going to talk about that one called the gamma frequency. It's sort of a let's call it responsible for a lot of interesting things that neuroscientists are beginning to discover right now. But just to recap, we have 4 brainwave frequencies: the delta, which is generally responsible for deep dreamless sleep, theta, which is responsible for dreaming and REM activity, alpha, which is a resting but conscious state of the brain, and beta, which is responsible for alert, conscious activity. So this knowledge forms the basis of the whole brainwave synchronization field, and it has been the focus of very intense scientific research in the last 30, 40 years. In the mid 80s, this field began to heat up because computer technology became much more powerful and cheaper. So developers and programmers and researchers could get their hands on technology that used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, came down into a range where they could easily afford the technologies to program much more sensitive equipment to 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 view the brain waves on their computers and see what they were doing while people are actually in various modes of activity. You could see what people were doing when they were running, when they were sleeping, when they were learning, reading, and a wide range of human activity. So some very interesting things began to emerge as far as performance is concerned. When it became clear what brain waves were active while we were in different modes of performance, naturally the question arose, are there ways to to activate these brain waves or to switch the brain waves from one state to another? Are there ways to do it safely? So a lot of exploration began around that. I think James, when he comes in, is going to explain more about that. But some of the exploration involved trying to influence the brain to switch states using drug intervention, using sleep deprivation, using other technologies like magnetic intervention, electrical stimulation, sound light intervention, and so on. And pretty soon we began to discover technologies that and invent machines that could mitigate, intervene, and influence these brainwaves to switch easily. And so the field of brainwave synchronization was born. And so today, you just have to search the net and you will find an array of technologies and offers and all types of methodologies that can be used to influence the brain to switch quickly from one state to another. You have any questions so far, Ofa?
Well, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about more. Wow, there's loads of background.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you repeat?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly. It just was a temporary dropout.
Yeah, there's quite feedback. Yes, what I'd like to know is more about how you came to explore this, and where are you with it now?
Okay, well, good question. And that's a very, very interesting story. It's kind of the story of my life. So I'll try to give you the short version of that.
Okay.
Um, I'm a musician, and while I was studying music, I was unhappy with the level of concentration that I was able to bring to reading music. You know, when you play music, the slightest break in concentration, if you're reading music, can lead to mistakes or break in the piece, in playing the piece. So it can interrupt your performance.
Yes.
So one of my teachers suggested that, you know, if, well, he thought I was doing quite well, but I didn't, you know. So he said, well, there are ways to improve how the brain concentrates, and that I could look at forms of mental disciplines that were very well established, for example, meditation. And, you know, my ears perked up and my eyes opened very wide, because, you know, that was a subject I was always interested in as a child, but I had no direct contact with it. So, you know, I set about searching for some sort of a meditation environment or for a teacher. And it turned out that there was a yoga center just close to where I was living in Kingston, Jamaica at the time. And so I this very fascinating Indian monk who taught me meditation, and you know, he broadened my horizons beyond just learning to concentrate for playing music. Very quickly, after learning meditation, within weeks, you know, I noticed a significant boost in my performance, in my playing of the guitar at the time. That was my first instrument. The pieces that were difficult and needed a lot of practice became quite easy with a lot less practice. So, you know, I naturally began to think about music as a tool that I began to wonder where this could all go. How far could I go with it? And so this took me to India, where I began to practice the deeper aspects of meditation, studied the entire philosophy behind this branch of yoga that was called Raja Yoga, and eventually ended up becoming a monk in full blown saffron robes and long beard and turban and all that for some years. But to come to the brainwave question, uh, I began to wonder what was going on in my brain when I sank into these deeper states of meditation. You know, I felt a distinct difference, a calmness that quickly descended over my body and my mind and my brain, and I felt as if I was in a different space, a space of profound calmness, stillness, where everything became very clear. I thought, you know, something really interesting must be going on in my brain, and I wanted to see what was going on. And over the years, that question never left me. Then I began to, when I became a teacher of the form of meditation that I was practicing, because, you know, that was the whole point of becoming a monk, to learn to teach other people how to teach meditation, basically. I was very disappointed with the results that other people were getting, because, you know, they were having a hard time just getting past the first stage where the mind could quiet down so that they could sink into this deep blissful state that I was accessing very easily. of course, by then I had been practicing meditation for very many years, and I had time to really sit down and cross my legs and drift away from the world. But interacting with people who have kids and jobs and everyday stresses, deadlines, telephones, the telephone ringing off the hook, I began to see that it would be quite challenging for, average persons to get into these states and enjoy what I was enjoying. And so I began to wonder if there was a better way, a method that was more uh, uh, effective for Western people with everyday issues, uh, to help them to get into these states. So I discussed this with some of the monks in my order, and they sort of, said, "You have gotten the technique from the master, and there's nothing better, so just relax and teach this. This is what you're supposed to do." And that was very not satisfying for me at all. Eventually, this question eventually led me to leaving the order, and I went back into the to music, which is my also, you could say, the other half of the big loves in my life, as far as my occupation is concerned. So, however, the question never left me. And I came across a set of cassettes one day given to me by an American friend of mine, from the Monroe Institute. Uh, he had been looking at the tapes that they had. They were called the Gateway Experience, I think,
Okay.
something like that. And they claim to have uh, found a technology that was as effective, if not more effective, than meditation in accessing the deeper mental states, where one could begin to explore the deeper states of the mind and of the self, and all the things that we do with meditation. That this was a method that enhanced the entire process and got you into that state very quickly. So I tried it, and I noticed very that states that took me maybe 10 to 15 to 20 minutes to get into. I got into this state uh, in, yeah, 2 3 minutes. So at first I thought, is this for real or am I making it up?
Uh-huh.
And I began to check it in the next days, and it was the same result every single time. So therefore, I thought, okay, this seems to be what I was looking for, a transport, a vehicle to get into this state, because I got there very quickly. So I began to read up about the whole thing, and there was a wonderful book by an author who is now no longer among us, sadly. His name was Michael Hutchison, and
Okay.
he wrote a book called The Mega Brain Power. And in that, he really explored and described the entire gamut of technology, of mind machines that had been emerging as a result of what had been going on in brainwave research, and discoveries in new safe ways to influence the brain to switch through the various states. So that is kind of the medium version of the story of how I came into brainwave synchronization. Um, uh, now, being a musician, one thing disturbed me about a lot of the music that I heard that were created by people using the brainwave synchronization audio method is that most of the music behind this technology was, uh, for me personally, very disturbing. uh, they sounded pretty cheap and horrible, you know. Maybe that was just my, I'm an audiophile, and so I like to hear excellent music at any time. And the stuff just sounded cheaply produced. So I thought, let me look at this and see if I can make a difference here. And so I began to explore creating music that could be mixed with the technology, which I will explain a little bit later. Um, it could be mixed with the technology that is used to produce the brainwave synchronization effect. And pretty soon I began to look at tones and timbres and chordal arrangements. Some tones naturally have a soothing effect on the mind, or some sounds, depending on the construct of the sound. Sine waves are very smooth waves, and so when you hear them, they have a calming effect on the mind. Whereas saw waves and square waves are very edgy waves. And so when you listen to them, they have a very energizing effect, or a more effect that tends to the more energetic aspect of the sound. So, our brains become energized while listening to these sounds. So some examples of these various types of sound would be if you're whistling, for example, like that. That is a sine wave. Whereas a sound of a string violin, for example, or certain types of synthetic sound would come under the saw wave or sine wave type of sound. And those sounds energize the brain. So I began to look at which sounds would best fit the relaxing states of the mind, to put you into a relaxing state, and the sounds that would put you into a more concentrated or active or alert state of mind. And that was a very long and interesting phase, that took maybe around 5 or 6 years. I also did a lot of collaboration with a few other people on that subject. Then I purchased some EEG technology to look at what was going on in the brain when we were hearing these sounds. Now, that's as far as the sound is concerned. Um, the other side of it is there are ways to use audio to trigger the brain waves, to trigger specific brains, to switch the brain from beta to alpha, down to theta, and down to delta, into sleep or up again. Initially, there was research done on a type of a complex of sounds that were known as binaural beats. Binaural beats happen when you take two different frequencies and you play them to each ear using stereo headphones.
Okay.
So if you take one frequency, for example, 100 hertz, and you play it to one ear, and you take 104 hertz and you play it to the other ear, the brain does something that, if you think about it, it feels counterintuitive. It should not happen, but the brain actually takes these sounds and mixes them and creates a beat, a vibration. And this vibration will always be the exact difference between the two frequencies. So if you take 100 hertz and 104 hertz and you play them to the brain instantly creates a beat or a vibrating sound that is exactly 4 hertz, the difference between 100 and 104.
Yes.
And after around 3 minutes of listening to this frequency, the brain begins to accept this beat as a brainwave and begins to resonate at the same frequency. And this resonant frequency begins to spread through the entire cortex of the brain. So if you listen to this frequency for 3 to 8 minutes, then your brain will gradually switch into the delta frequency where you sleep. So you will naturally become very drowsy and sleepy and fall asleep very quickly. Right. So this is called the binaural beat method, where you take two different frequencies and you mix them to create the specific frequency that you need. You can do this with alpha. You can do this with and you can do this with delta, all the general brainwave frequencies. So this means that we now have technologies that can help us to quickly, efficiently, and safely, without the need to take any drugs to induce, any different changes. We can quickly switch into states of high alertness, or deep sleep, or deep relaxation, or states where you're just relaxed but also focused at the same time. So that's basically the explanation behind how you create uh, brainwave synchronization audio. Now, when you take these signals and you mix them with the music that supports the music that naturally have the types of sounds and tempos and other ambient signals. For example, white noise. It's the sound of the ocean, the sound of the wind blowing in the trees. You get a very, very powerful and effective tool that is pleasant to listen to, but at the same time, very effective in switching the brainwave to states of high concentration, deep relaxation, deep sleep, states for meditation, states for staying alert, for studying, states for super learning. You can get a wide range of basically, let's call it peak performance states or optimal performance. I like that word better, because peak performance um, uh, indicates being at the top of your game, a highly intense state at all times. But just like when you drive a car, you do not always drive the car in the highest, in the fourth gear or the fifth gear, right? You switch down sometimes to the first gear, and depending on the conditions of the road, you need to switch accordingly. So unfortunately, we live in a world where we are forced to stay in our speed all the time, the beta brainwave,
Yes.
in order to deal with the pressures of our everyday life. We stay in that brain state, and this has very, very destructive uh, effects next, if we force our brains to stay in this state for a very long period of time, then eventually we become stressed and we become victims of stress and stress-related disorders. Uh,
Yes.
any questions, or you have anything you want to report?
It, hold on. It's very interesting to kind of, you know, I'm kind of thinking, what are the applications of such a thing? And,
Right,
who can benefit from something like that? And as we know from talking to James, I'm just going to fill everybody in on the James status. Um, before we started the show, James told us that there is a huge storm going on where he is. And he went to make coffee, and that was the end of it. That was the last time we've seen him. And I've been trying to connect with him through Skype and through telephone. And I sent him an email, and nothing.
right.
Vanished. So um, I don't know what we're going to do about it. I'm
Well,
hoping that he's joining us in a minute, but I suspect he lost internet connection due to the storm that goes on.
right.
Uh,
Well,
but
if Costa Rica is anything like Jamaica, where I am from originally, I tell you, these storms can sometimes cause power outages.
yes,
And, I hope that's not the case, but that could
it
easily
could
be
be
what
the case because he's just not responding to anything. So it's a bit strange what's going on.
right,
You
right,
but you know, that's life. Things like this
right,
will happen, and if we don't get him, then we'll try and organize it for next week. But
right,
I'm hoping that by some kind of a miracle, he will join us in a minute.
right. Okay.
Um, okay, but we
Well,
don't.
let's look at the applications that you.
I just want to say something about our meeting with him and what we discussed with him a little bit because it will kind of um, tally with what you were saying.
Mhm.
Um, there are two kinds of, if you like, two kinds of approaches to this. The James approach, I'm just saying the James approach, but it's not really
Right,
his approach. It's just what he does is work one on one, and his work or his companies working with people in a more specific way. So they would measure brainwaves activity and will assess according to their interview with the person and looking at the patterns of their brainwaves and tailor some kind of um, pattern, new pattern for the brain to learn to use, maybe we should say, more efficiently, or overcoming anxiety or overcoming trauma or whatever that person that comes to them have, they can, by looking at the brain map, which is basically the state of the brain of the person and the pattern that they create in their brain, um, due to their state of being. And the technique that they are using is they are connected, people are sitting in front of a monitor, they are connected to some software, and their brainwaves is activating something on the screen, say a game, okay, a simple computer game, if they, or a video that is being played, if they go into the right brainwave for the correction that they need, then the video will play. If they drift out of that brainwave, the video would stop playing. So this is something, I'm just explaining it in simple terms. This is something that would be tailored to somebody's specific need. And
Right.
I'm hoping that James would come on and then he can tell us all about that.
Right.
And also that the specific conditions that and health issues that he's been working with, you know, because that's really, really interesting. And what you're describing is something that anybody can use
Right.
by listening to this music and going into meditation. You train your brain to go into particular states. So
Right.
it's like entrainment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something from outside of your brain that is giving you cues and allowing your brain to find a way to merge with that
Right.
you listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about neurofeedback, it's more your brain has to find that place by itself. There's nothing that is showing it the way apart from the feedback. The feedback
Right.
is either the computer game or the video playing or whatever that is. Um, and the applications of it could be quite amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, from our discussion with him, it's helping a lot of autistic kids, a lot of kids with ADHD, people with post traumatic disorder, uh, people who had stroke or serious brain injury. What did he tell us? He's working with a psychiatrist who
Yeah.
says psychiatry is dead. When you
Yeah.
something like
I, you see, I, I can maybe say a little bit more about that that field, as because I also at some point worked with a very limited version of neurofeedback at a research level, and also used it as a training tool some years ago when I worked with some golfers. Um, the difference, as you explained before, between brainwave synchronization and neurofeedback is that neurofeedback actually gives you a real time feedback on what's going on in your brain whenever you do any special mental activity, right? And as James described it, they are working with technology that scans basically the entire brain. You know, it's a cap that you put on your head that has a lot of electrodes. So I'll just be general because I cannot speak to, you know,
yeah,
all of the various areas of the brain. But what they're able to do with that cap and the software that they have interpreting the signals coming in from the brain is that they can first of all uh, map your brain. They
mm-hmm.
can look into basically any area of the brain and see how it's performing. So if you have some sort of uh, damage in the brain, they can see that area and give you a way to interact with the networks of neurons around that area either through sound or through video feedback. So you may have to play a game as you described it just now. But by playing this game is programmed to give you a certain sort of result on the screen. So if you're flying a spaceship in the right direction, for example, just by flying the spaceship, you are actually interacting with the neurons in that specific area of the brain. Now, he may be able to explain exactly how this is possible, but it's happening. They're be able to interact with those specific regions by interpreting the brain waves that are coming from those regions. And as a result of that, this is why you explain that this is a sort of a highly specific one-to-one type of a situation. They can work with groups of people, like in retreats, or they can work with one-to-one with people who have brain damage. But not only that, they also work with peak performance, persons who want to enhance their performance and access higher states of concentration, train areas of the brain that might be, I'm assuming that this would be possible. If you want to improve your speaking capabilities or your capability to stay focused and alert, the capability to remove hyperactive disorders and generally get into a state of higher mental performance. So there is that side of it, and then there's the therapeutic side of it, where they work with different types of brain disorders or brain the damage, to rehabilitate the brain to come back into a state of balance. He also explained that they worked with people who have problems with for example, autism, um, uh, kids who have been able to look their mothers in their eyes the first time after a few sessions of training with their technologies and with their guidance. They can very quickly get results that would seem to be miraculous. So yeah, that's I, I really do hope, as you do, that he comes on and can delve into that whole field, because it's pretty fascinating when he begins to talk about it. But we were talking about the applications of brainwave synchronization.
Yes.
Unlike neurofeedback, brainwave synchronization cannot really target very specific areas of the brain, at least not with the audio technology that I work with. And before I get into that, I should say there are different methods, different techniques for creating the brainwave synchronized effect. You can do this with sound. You can, the audio method that I explained just now, which is one of the most popular methods that exist, because we are used to sound and we have technologies already in place that through which we listen to sound. But you can also do it with flashing lights that have a strobe effect. There are many types of machines out there known as sound light machines,
Yes.
and they do the same thing through the visual medium. Then there is cranial electrostimulation or electrical stimulation, where you can again have the same effect by sending very small, tiny frequencies or voltages through the brain to stimulate the various or to activate the various frequencies, whether they be alpha, theta, delta, or beta. And you can also achieve this with electromagnetism or magnetic frequencies. So depending on who you talk to, different persons will have their preferences. Uh, Basically, because people work with different technologies, but also we have different modalities. This is a very well established in NLP that some people may respond better to a sound or visual stimulation or tactile stimulation. So I work with the audio, as I explained before, and the applications are pretty huge, actually, because there are therapeutic aspects of it, which people report to me, but I focus more on performance because for example, showing people how to enter into states of deep relaxation rapidly. Within a couple of minutes, you can enter into a very deep state of relaxation by activating your theta brainwave. Or you can enter into states of, let's say, super learning states, where you can process a vast amount of information rapidly while because you have activated your alpha brainwave. Or let me say something about brainwave synchronization. We now have the capability to access a mix of brain states that I believe were not necessarily a part of the mental functioning system that we had before. In other words, let me say it in a more simple way. With brainwave technology, we have the possibility to layer different states. Like we can say, let's take a little bit of relaxation by activating a specific frequency of theta. And then you can activate a specific frequency of the alpha brainwave and also a specific frequency of beta. And you can bring these three into one state and create various types of brain states that would have been.
Do you mean that different parts of the brain would be entrained to produce different brainwaves at the
Yes,
same time?
at the same time?
Yes.
And thereby, maybe if we used to do this before, we do not have the technologies to tell us of what was going on before we had EEG to really look at the brain and to see what was going on. But we now know that we can create these complex uh, uh, states of brainwave, let's call it brainwave mixes, that can target being deeply relaxed while being highly concentrated at the same time. And the value of this would be, normally when we concentrate without any special intervention, the longer you focus or keep your mind in a state of high focus, the worse your performance gets. The longer you concentrate, the more your capability to stay concentrated go down. So your concentration, because you become more and more stressed if you stay in that state for a long time. But
Yes.
these technologies begin to give us the capability to stay highly focused but deeply relaxed at the same time. So you get marathon concentration. There is such a word. You can stay in that state for a very long period of time. I've done some work with this with with a lot of people, actually, people who are managers, students, sports practitioners, and the results have been just phenomenal. For example, I did a seminar once in Hungary with a bunch of, well, a mix of teachers, people who work in banks, and others who were self-employed. And, they took, I think in that seminar, we were looking at just these two basic states of deep concentration and, deep relaxation and high focus. And they were provided with two audio tracks in these days. We use CDs, we didn't have MP3 players and so on. This was quite a few years ago.
Okay.
And they were to use these technologies for 6 weeks. And then I would go back to Hungary and, review what was going on. And when I went back, they explained to me that, for example, I remember one man who worked in the bank, in the accounting section of the bank. He told me that he was now able to leave work earlier because he would finish everything that was on his table, things that used to stress him out because he had piles of work on his desk, and his work was never done. But now, he could finish his daily quota of work that he had laid out for the day. And he would be finished up to an hour or an hour and a half before the time he would normally be finished. So he said, after that, he still had a life. He could now go out with his friends. Anybody who knows what a grueling work day is like, you know that usually when you're finished, you get home, you just become a couch potato. You just veg out in front of the TV and fall asleep because you're too tired to do anything else. So your social life can get really badly damaged. But not only that, your work life, not your work life and your sex life, all of these various components of your life can become destroyed when you have a very stressful work day. And when a stressful work day becomes a stressful work week, and a stressful work month, and a stressful work year, these things lead to chronic disease, chronic stress-related disease. So I've had a lot of people who reported to me like a total shift in the paradigm of their lives, a total shift in how a shift from a state of unhappiness to a shift to joyfulness, enjoying their work, and then leaving work and still have time for your family, have time for, going out, hanging out with your friends. And just they have been shifted into a much more productive and better, higher quality state of living, simply by being able to stay relaxed, but at the same time, highly focused while at work. So the applications, there are other applications. I have had the opportunity to work with the amateur Austrian golf team a few years ago. And the effects or the results of that time I spent with the guys was pretty fascinating. I gave each member of the team a specialized form of brainwave synchronization audio, in which we embedded we would embed some affirmations um, yeah, we would embed affirmations that, sorry, I'm just getting a little bit distracted here. Let me continue. Um, these affirmations that would focus on the issues that the various players were having. For example, somebody would be highly stressed during the game because of the expectations from the public to perform well. And they would become stressed because of the expectation from the public, or that they would have these various forms of self-destructive uh, dialogue going on in the brain while they were playing, to say, oh, you're not going to make this shot, or you're not good enough, and all the various kinds of self-destructive uh, uh, data that can be flowing through our brain while we are
The
trying to
broken record, I call this, DJ.
come again.
The broken record, I call
Right,
it.
broken record.
Yeah,
So
goes on and on.
what I did was I allowed these guys to listen to deep relaxation brain waves, and then while doing that, their minds would go into the it's let's call it a state of that would be similar to self-hypnosis. And
Yeah,
while they were in that state, the mind would be wide open to auto suggestions. So before that, we had discussed, I discussed with each of them what their specific goals were, what they wanted to attain, and I would take these goals and uh, turn them into audio positive affirmations, and recorded this onto mix this with the audio, with the brainwave music and the brainwave audio signals, and they would listen to this for the last thing they did before falling asleep, and the first thing before waking up was to listen to these audio tracks, and this went on for a few weeks. The end result of that was these guys went from mediocre performers to highly effective golfers, to the extent that they began to win various tournaments that they played in. There were four guys that I worked with. One of them went on to win the Innsbruck Open. And, this is one of the tournaments where all of the professionals come from all over the country and from around the world, and they enter the Innsbruck Open. And these guys, they were amateurs at the time. They were not professional golfers, but
yes.
they creamed it. And won that tournament. So you know, the interesting,
I wanna interject something here. It's
yeah,
very interesting what you're describing because, hold on, let me bring myself out there. It's very interesting what you are describing because part of what happens when you do a lot of meditation, when you meditate for years, it's synchronizing between the two hemispheres of your brains. It allows
yeah,
your brain to function equally on both sides, and the potential in doing so is immense, as we know.
yes,
And this is also connected to the ability of somebody to shift, to turn and shift from one pattern to another, meaning, say, we talked about the broken record. People have sabotaging programs going on, and I'm not good enough, I'm never going to succeed, this kind of stuff. And they are a victim of it. They can't really, they can't really change that. It just goes on and on and on and on.
mm-hmm.
But when you meditate and you manage to reach that state of synchronizing between the two sides of your brains, actually being aware of something makes you shift really quickly.
Yeah.
Shift from doing something in a certain way and thinking, hang on a minute, this is not serving me anymore. I'm changing that.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting what you are describing about these golfers, because it actually demonstrates that if they reach those states of deep meditation, it
Mm-hmm.
helped them to shift those patterns that they were stuck in, and that
Exactly.
improved their performance.
Exactly. This exactly what happened, you know. Um, this is, I'm really sorry that James is not here, because you touched on uh, something that we began to, the whole neurofeedback field is beginning to realize that when you
The
say if
gamma,
you become aware of your state, or become
yes,
aware of something that is a
yeah,
problem for you, you can change it. You know, if you know what to focus on. Feedback. The quicker you get feedback from anything that you're focusing on, the more you can fine tune your behavior, your control. And this goes through the entire range of human activity, from just general behavior patterns to fine motor control, to the control of neuronal networks in your brain. If you can get the feedback, then you
yes.
can very quickly control what it does and control how it performs, basically.
I,
So,
I wanted to I wanted to touch a little bit on something we discussed with James. Actually, you brought it up, and that is the gamma range
mhm.
and how that relates to meditation and the new discoveries around that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
A little bit. Again, James could wax
Well,
eloquent
yeah,
on this,
he's
right?
not ill, so we might as
Right.
well.
Earlier in the EEG and the whole well, the field of electroencephalography and neurofeedback, um, the gamma wave wasn't looked at because the technologies were not sensitive enough to pick up this brain wave. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I hope maybe some of our viewers can express some more about that. But later on, as the technologies developed, they began to really look at this frequency. And they discovered that there was a lot going on there. Now, the gamma wave is a much faster frequency than the beta frequency, which is responsible for our being alert and active. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it goes up into the 35 hertz, could be up to as much as 42 hertz. Yeah, we can check that out later and verify that. But they discovered that the Buddhist monks, for example, were generating a lot of frequencies in the gamma range where average people don't. And they found that when they were in their states of mindfulness, or their states of deep meditation, states of higher awareness, that this brainwave seems to be quite active. And as a result of that, I created a special meditation CD that uses this frequency. Now I have to digress a little bit here to speak about the possibility to use audio to um, to entrain this brainwave. I spoke earlier about the binaural beats. Binaural beats are, again, when you use two frequencies to create a third frequency, a third beat, a vibration. And this vibration is created by the brain when the brain hears two separate signals. And then the brain begins to synchronize to this beat that is being created.
Okay.
Now, the gamma frequency is quite elusive when you use the binaural beats. It's very difficult, some people say impossible, to use this method to entrain the brain using binaural beats. So a new method was developed, which is called isochronic beats. And the isochronic beat is basically, instead of using two frequencies to create that third beat, you take one tone and you pulse it at the frequency you need. So they found that the isochronic method was more effective in entraining the gamma frequency than any other method that they had found. And I've used it to create meditation tracks, which is going to be a part of this special giveaway that we spoke about earlier. This I've created 20-minute, 30-minute, and 1 hour and 2 hour meditation tracks. The fascinating thing I find is that, you know, I'm a deep meditator, so I can sit easily in meditation without any sort of audio or any kind of technology, supporting technology. I can easily sit for an hour and have a great time in silence. But the gamma meditation that I've developed, well, gamma meditation might not be a proper or an accurate term, because I am using all of the frequencies at different times throughout the length of the whole process. But I use when I use this meditation track, I can sit easily for 2 hours in deep meditation, experiencing, you know, very intense states of expanded connectivity. Meditators who are used to that level of meditation talk about entering into a state of oneness or a state of blissful awareness, where you feel as if you are at one with the universe. It's not a theoretical state. You know, it really happens. You feel as if you have the me that is now existing in this tiny space expands until it becomes a big me, a big oneness, so to speak. And you feel as if you are there. You are no longer just here. It's all one big here. Yeah. And that happens when you can sit for a long, sustained period where your mind is withdrawn from all of the external distractions and mental distractions, emotional distractions, and physical, you know, discomforts. Then you enter into the states. The meditation track that, you know, I've done for 1 hour helps me to enter into these states and stay there, you know. And I have passed it out to a few friends of mine who, some of them never really had much experience with meditation. And the effect is more or less the same. Well, I haven't given them the 2 hour meditation. You know, that's for advanced meditators who have the time to sit for 2 hours. But the 20-minute, 30-minute, and 1 hour track, they use it and they have reported more or less the same effects. You know, some people report to me that they end up with tears of joy, you know, coming down the, rolling down their cheeks while they're in this state. Other people tell me that it helps them to break through uh, to levels of internal, to break through blockages and to begin to experience uh, higher levels of self-empowerment, higher states of being. People who are advanced meditators also report the same thing, that after meditating for years and years, they feel blocked because they reach a level where they feel as if they touch a ceiling and they just can't seem to break through to a higher state. But using this process, they have been able to do that. All right, do you have something you want to jump in here at? I can't hear you. Are you muted or am I muted?
It is very interesting, you know, what you were saying about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm distracted by the fact that James is not here. I'm very disappointed about it, but I guess he's actually deep under storm. There is other things going on which I try to resolve while you are speaking. So
Right.
it hasn't been easy from that perspective.
Okay.
Yes. I'm trying to think what else can we cover without, because I still would like to get James to join us at some point in the future. We'll try to do it next week.
Right.
I guess what we did today would be quite a good introduction to what we can do with him. But at this point, you know, it is very
Right.
difficult to continue
How
to
are
talk about
we
those
on
things.
time,
To talk
guys?
about these things without, you know, without involving um, his input into it. But um, I just um, I just would like it if you could expand a little bit about the actual packages that you have, and I would like people to know where they can look it up.
Right.
And, and so, even if you could share your screen and show us a little bit of each one and kind of take us through this very quickly. And
Okay. All
then,
right.
um,
Um, I guess hadn't planned to do that tonight
I know,
because
but hey,
we're going to James's thing, but let's see if we
we
can
have
do
to
that.
juggle all the balls that are being thrown at us. This is
Yeah.
this is what
All right.
broadcasting live is, I guess. So just
Okay. This is my website, Brainwaves 21.
hold on.
21 in 21 meaning the 21st century,
Okay.
because it is my belief that brainwaves and brainwave synchronization and neurofeedback is a 21st century technology. You know, although we began to explore it in the 20th century, we've really begun to tap into the deeper potential of it and what the various applications. So therefore, I named my company Brainwaves 21. And now it's a bilingual site in German and in English because, you know, I'm located in Austria. So this is where most of my clients are located. But the site is designed to pick up what site, or if you're logging in from a German browser, then it will automatically switch to the German. If your main language is English, it will pick it up and switch to English. On the site, we have a number of packages. We have one fascinating package, which is known as Encode. We have Encode Advanced and Encode Lite. And that package is basically the usage of, or it targets your personal goals. So it's a custom designed package in which, you know, I discuss with you what your goals are. Then we take these goals and we turn them into affirmations, as I had discussed before. And then we mix these affirmations with signals that bring your brain into this deep, profound state of relaxation where your subconscious mind becomes wide open, or we say hypersuggestible. Therefore, the affirmations become autosuggestions that become embedded very quickly in your subconscious mind. They take root and they grow and motivate you to attain the goals, whatever the goals may be. You know, they may be financial goals, they may be health goals, they may be relationship goals, various types of goals that human beings have. This product will help you to target that and attain that very quickly. Then we have products that target deep relaxation for people who are stressed. So for example, this one is called Floating, and we have another one called Chill Mellow. These are very beautiful tracks with very beautiful music, and they bring you into a beautiful state of mind, in a state where you enter, we call it the mind awake, body sleep state of mind, where your body falls asleep, but your mind enters the theta zone, where you may experience a sort of dreamy state, you know, and you enter into that state very quickly because your theta brainwave is activated. Then we have other products for concentration. For example, these products are from the iFocus series. They are for office applications. So if you're in your office and you don't feel as if you're bringing your total mind and your total focus to the work at hand, you can use this product while you're working. So if you have a tiny in-ear headphone that is acceptable in the office environment, you just put it on, press the button, and feel your brain ramping up to a high performance, high focus state. And you can stay in this state for as long as you want without feeling stressed. Remember, I discussed earlier that normal concentration, eventually, the longer you stay into a highly focused state of mind, you become more and more stressed over time. But these tracks, the mind tunnel, marathon concentration, they help you to enter this state without feeling stressed, because the theta brainwave is also activated while your alpha and beta brainwaves are also triggered. So you have a sort of balance between relaxation and concentration. Therefore, you stay focused while relaxed. We have, for people who have problems falling asleep or waking up, we have, so for example, here is the EyesWise track. And the EyesWise track, what it does is 1 hour before you want to arise from sleep in the morning, you can set your alarm to alert you, and you would just put on your headphones, press play, and go back to sleep. And it begins to play, and over the period of an hour, it gently switches your brain waves from delta up to theta to alpha, and finally, in the last 5 minutes, it gradually brings you into the beta state, so that you become fully awake and feel ready for the day, as opposed to the normal method of using the alarm clock that jars you awake, and then you jump up feeling stressed and ready to rush. This gently wakes you up. A part of the problem that people feel when they use the conventional alarms to wake up is that the brain does not uh, come into a balanced state of wakefulness when you shock the brain awake. So the EyesWise helps you to change to those gears naturally, whereas the other methods shock parts of the brain to wakefulness, but your total brain does not come awake in a very synchronized, gradual, logical way. So, I feel that the way in which we awaken in modern society with alarm clocks, where we jump out of, sorry, my phone is ringing. I just have to kill it here. Yes, where we jump out of bed, and rush to the bathroom, rush. The brain is not balanced. And so we go to work or go about our daily activities. We start the day in a very, in a state of imbalance. But the EyesWise gradually brings you awake by switching your brain waves through the various states. Think of it like when you change gears in a car, right? If you're driving and you suddenly go from first gear to fourth gear, yeah? Think of what that does to the engine. But think if you switch up gradually from, first gear to second, third, fourth, fifth, then your engine is preserved and you get a much better performance from your car. Similarly, well, on the other hand, there is the EyesSleep, the EyesSleep track. This is for falling asleep. Many of us, when we go to sleep in the nights, we fall asleep with all of the problems of the day, the stresses of the day, the anger, the unfinished stuff, the excitements. All of these things are in our minds, percolating around as we fall asleep. So the EyesSleep, which is called Sandman's Dream, helps to wipe out the activities and helps you to go to sleep in a very peaceful and calm state. So while the music is going on, soothing you down, the brain waves are switching gradually from beta down to alpha, down to theta, and finally to delta, where you are asleep. And this happens over the period of 1 hour. Most people, actually, I do not know of anybody who purchased this product who ever heard the end of it, because you'll fall asleep long before it's finished. So it's
Yes.
good for everybody, but also very useful for people who have um, sleep issues with sleep disturbances. People who suffer from insomnia and various types of sleep disorders. This could be a very helpful product for those persons. Then we have the eyescapes. Eyescapes would fall under the relaxation type of product, but it's a journey that looks at traveling through nature or traveling on the ocean. We have various ones. We have Song of the Sea, and that's kind of a seascape where you go on a journey via boat, and you're being led um, through that journey. A voice takes you on that journey. And then there is the a forest journey where you go for a walk in the forest mentally, and you experience all the joys of nature. You hear the ambient sounds of the world around you as you listen to that track. So these are just relaxation tracks that can be used in various situations. You're sitting at the dentist, and or if you are suffering from angst, um, you can use these products to calm down and enter a state of deep relaxation where the stress and the worry fall away, and you enter that zone of calmness. So these are the various products that I have. I've tried to cover the basic needs that we all have in our everyday lives, and some people have issues in some areas, so some products might be more useful for some people, while other tracks might be more helpful for others. That would cover the products that I do have at the moment. Now, we spoke earlier about the witty tweety competition that
Yes.
where we want people to tweet the upcoming shows, or to tweet our channel and the upcoming shows that we're going to be
Yes.
having. And I will be giving away a package of these brainwave synchronization tracks that will include high concentration. So it will include one of the eye focus uh, tracks. It will include one of the deep relaxation tracks, the chill mellow track, that is, and
Yes.
one of my secret meditation track that it's not available on the website. I have not released it officially, but I will be giving away this package to the winner of the Witty Tweety competition.
Yes. Excellent.
Right. How are we
Come back
doing with
to
our
that.
time right now? What?
Well, we have 15 minutes
Mm,
before the show ends. And since James is not here, and I don't see that we have any questions, but let me just check that. You can come back, stop sharing screen, and see what we get. Okay, I'm just checking the question answers to see if anybody posted us any questions. Not that we are some kind of authority or that we can, answer. Um, no, we have no questions.
right. Okay.
So my suggestion
Well,
is
maybe
that
before maybe what we could talk about what's coming up in the future, some of the upcoming shows that
Sure.
we have in mind, and some of the ideas that we have been exploring, so that people can maybe also give us an indication on some of the things that they would be interested in seeing.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, first of all, what we wanted is we wanted people to tell us what they would like us to cover. So on the website, which is EyesWiseOpen.com, on the page of the show, there is a contact form at the bottom. And please feel free to tell us if there is anything you wish us to cover. There is also a possibility for people who want to be on the show to um, join the conversation. Also, you can just send us an email through this contact form, and we'll contact you. We do have a question. Hey, somebody is asking, I'm interested to know what effects of tinnitus would be on the brain. Any ideas?
Well, I can't answer that question with great specificity because I've not looked really at tinnitus and the brainwave synchronization. I I do not, I know of some areas of research where people have been looking at using sound, interestingly, to intervene with tinnitus. But what I could do is do a little bit of research and tell you what I've found out.
Maybe,
I know
maybe,
that tinnitus
maybe
is
you
a
can post. Maybe you can post this answer on the website. So whoever is asking this question can come back in a few days and post it there.
right. Um,
What?
yeah, sorry. I wish I could be more helpful with that, but
Yes.
I
Well,
can't.
I will say this. We will try to get James back next week, and I
Mhm.
believe it will be a much juicier show because he's got so much knowledge about this field.
Right.
And you know, so talking about what's going on next week, I guess we will try to get James next week and do this again.
Right.
The week after that, we already have guests booked up, and the topic is going to be cancer. We have two fantastic guests on our show, and the week after that, we still don't know. So
Right.
we have ideas, but we don't have a confirmation on the topic and the guest yet. But we are working on it. I just hope we have a bit more success with future guests than we have today.
Right. Well, you know,
But
I,
all
I think
considering,
most
DJ, I
probably
have
I
to
can.
say you really saved the day.
Pardon?
I said, all considering, you really saved the day.
Yeah. Well, all in divine order.
Yeah,
I had a ton of questions lined up for
for James.
James
Yes.
today.
Where's James?
He was supposed to be the main guest, but divine
Yes.
order. I am hoping that in the future we will be able to explore some collaborative or group interactive uh, projects as well,
Yes.
involving brainwave synchronization. For example, for many years, there have been a lot of mass consciousness experiences, where or experiments where you get thousands of people meditating at the same time on a
Yes.
specific theme. And I have been thinking, I have had small groups meditating at the same time, all locked into the same frequency of theta, while while focusing on specific mental goals or specific spiritual goals.
Yes.
So I have been thinking that this would be a good forum to explore mass conscious experiments where most of the people who are listening out there are using like the meditation track or the deep relaxation track, which I would provide for free so that everybody can get it and don their headphones and then go into that state. I think the result of that could be an amplified group mind effect that
Yeah.
may go beyond what has been attained before, because there has been a lot of research that shows when the brains of various persons enter a state of synchrony, then the brain waves all begin to lock on to that to the same wavelength. Now, when this is enhanced by accessing theta and alpha states with certainty, not guesswork, because there are lots
Yes.
of people out there who talk about alpha meditations and so on, but we do not know exactly what's going on if you are not using some sort of technology to ensure that you're locking on to these brainwaves. Now, can you imagine what would happen when we can definitely say that all the persons or the majority of persons who are inside of this experiment are all locked onto this brainwave? The effects could be tremendous. And I think we could do a lot of good to this planet. We're in Europe over, so we see what's going on with the exodus from Syria. And all over the planet, we have stuff like that going on right now. I think this is what we need to be using our collective energies to target um, events like this and to bring some sanity, some peace, and healing into these situations that are unfolding. So I envision projects where we are not just talking at the people and giving them ideas and information, but getting them involved in processes like this.
Yes. Well, we are coming to the end of our show. I think your idea is fantastic. And
Right.
as you well know, this is where we started.
Yeah.
We had those discussions of doing that. What was it now? 5 years ago?
Yeah.
So here we are.
Here we are. Here we are.
Finally, finally getting it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, it is now, we have half a minute to end our
Right.
show.
Closing words from me. I want to thank you all out there in Cyberland, um, the new followers of EyesWise. I want to thank you for tuning in, and for those of you who will be watching this later on online, thanks for listening. And we need your support to make this successful. Uh, Pardon? I didn't catch that.
Um, okay. Yes, I've just my alarm is basically telling me what the time is.
Right.
Um, so we need to wrap up. Thank you, DJ,
And
for
thank
doing an
you.
amazing job filling in for James. You did really well. And I want to thank everybody tuned in for our live show. And I'm hoping that those who missed it will tune in later on. And I hope that next week James is showing up and that he's safe out of the storm. So,
Right.
is there something else you want to say before we close this?
Yeah, that next week, same time, same place, same station, we'll be
Okay,
here. So looking forward to see you all. Thanks and have a good
bye bye.
evening.